came and visited me one day and said, why don't you come and take a look at Orangetheory and see what you think? Maybe you can buy a franchise. And I said, come on, bro. I just built this beautiful facility out of my own money, blood, sweat, and tears. I'm not going to turn this into an Orangetheory. And we paid $16 a square foot as opposed to 40. And it was our highest utilized, most profitable studio, I think, in the entire company at the time. I was like, I don't care. Just give me the paperwork. I'm signing today.
Welcome to the Zero to Profitable Franchise Podcast, the best place for you to come to figure out the right franchise to buy and how to get and stay profitable. My name is Tariq Johnson, and I've bought, grown, and sold multiple franchises and got myself free from corporate America, and now I'm on a mission to help you do that too. Here you'll find some of the most in-depth profitable franchise secrets, tangible strategies, and specific mindsets to help you create your dream life through franchising. All right, welcome to episode number 3 of the Zero to Profitable Franchise Podcast. Now, this is a listen on the edge of your seat episode. Nabilah was a regional director with Orangetheory, which is one of the most prolific franchises, not only in history, but really it's dominated in the fitness space and stood the test of time. Check this out. She went from working for a guy who owned an Orangetheory franchise to then owning the entire state of Oklahoma with Orangetheory herself. And so in this episode, we talk about exactly how she did that. Then she sold all of her Orangetheory locations, which you have to hear how that worked, because she was able to not only sell her open locations, but also the rights to the locations that she hadn't even opened yet. And then she found another franchise named KidStrong, bought the entire Orlando and Tampa market, and is going to be opening up over 20 locations. So this is an episode that you do not want to miss a minute of. So strap on your seatbelt and get ready. Now, this episode is sponsored by no one. So if you are wanting to buy a franchise in the next 12 months, well, check out my free masterclass training at buyaprofitablefranchise.com. And also, if you want to work with me and my team on help finding or buying a franchise or resale business, then you can go to tariqjohnson.com/consulting, and we're happy to see if we can help. With that said, let's jump into episode number 3 of the Zero to Profitable Franchise Podcast. Everyone, I have here Nabilah, who has an amazing story. We wind up connecting, and it's actually pretty funny because I wind up getting connected with her because my son goes to the franchise that she owns here in Orlando, and it's been absolutely amazing. He won the Coaches Award.
I saw that.
The Coaches Award the other day.
That's awesome. What were his points that he won that award, where he earned that award?
Because he was talking about in the beginning of the class that he was going to do it without daddy's help.
Ooh, nice.
And walk across the balance beam. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it without daddy's help. So.
That's awesome. I saw that the other day on the Facebook channel. So that's awesome. I love seeing stuff like that. Exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Well, I'm super excited to talk to you. Your story is very, very cool. But for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about kind of yourself, your history in franchising, and what franchises that you own now.
Well, let's see. I am a descendant of Lebanon and Italy. So I have a really fun little fiery background. My dad is a pharmacist, and I learned all of my business acumens from him because he also owns several different entities of business that he's been extremely successful in. And I just used to watch him do all of his things, and it used to really just get me excited. So as the kids back in the day would play marriage and, house, I was playing boss. That was my game that I used to play. So it was something I was doing since I was 4. But I got into franchising actually because I was in the fitness industry. I've been in the industry for about 28 years, and I learned that you can be either in the business or you can work the business. So working the business, I got into Orangetheory back in 2012, right when it was starting to blow up. I had an opportunity to buy a territory in 2014, which I did, which was Oklahoma. We were able to develop 5 very, very successful centers or units there. To where we were able to sell about 4 years later at an undisclosed amount, but it was definitely something that gave me the platform to be able to get into a new franchising business, which was the KidStrong, which was actually introduced to me during my ownership of Orangetheory. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I'm too busy. But when I sold, I had to think about what I wanted to do. And my, passion was fitness, but it was also helping kids from the very beginning so that I didn't get these adults that were already tragically, torn up. Teaching them this time, like this age is probably going to help them be better in the adult fitness world for themselves. But and KidStrong was introduced to me, and I went down to a discovery, and I immediately took on two territories. So I own Tampa and Orlando, and then I will be hopefully meeting today, as in fact, to work on the Cali piece that we're working on of all of North and South California. So,
wow,
that happens. That just happened yesterday.
wow, that is huge. That's a massive undertaking. Yeah. All right, so let's unpack this and kind of start from the beginning. So, Orangetheory is known to be a wildly successful franchise concept, and their franchise owners have done very well. The concept is sold out. I mean, are there even territories available in the United States? Right? Like,
no. Yeah, there's nothing available. In fact, when I purchased Oklahoma, it wasn't really my first territory. Being from Tampa, Florida, I wasn't too entirely excited to go to Oklahoma. There was San Francisco, which is obviously more appealing to live, but very high in cost. And then there was Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I said, I'll go with Oklahoma. They have the thunder. There's the oil and gas industry. It's low cost to start a business there. So very, very, I knew it wasn't going to be long-term. So Oklahoma became that area. But right now what's happening is PE firms are basically consolidating. So that's why we were able to get out relatively quickly without even developing the entire region, but still selling to the future. So we didn't just sell multiples on our actual locations that were in existence. We were able to actually average them out to however many locations that we were going to have in the next, 5 years from that time. So it was definitely the consolidation really helped for small regions like us to maximize our profitability in the sale.
Wow. And so for those of you who are listening who don't know what a PE firm, that's private equity firm. So it's quite common right now in the marketplace that we're in, that they're going in and buying in territories of existing franchises. So you owned 5 locations, right, that were existing, and then you owned some rights to some other locations, which is what you were saying that you packaged and sold. So can you talk about what that was like and how many other rights that you owned?
Well, the cool thing is when you're the area representative of an entire state, you have as many rights as you want, as long as there's the need, population density, core customer count. And as we know that we knew about Oklahoma, believe it or not, it was actually a pretty thriving state. The economy never really felt the recession, even during the recession time. They're not in debt. So a lot of people that go there, they actually go there for business, and they're able to make quite a big income, and their housing is relatively cheap. So they have a lot of money to play around with. So anybody that opens a business there does relatively well. It's something that they also don't have is a lot of competition. So that was what was really cool for us, is because as we grow, we look at where do we put these locations, and is there competition? Nope. Okay, drop one right there, because even if there is 10,000 people as opposed to 20,000 people we look for, there's those 10,000 people have nowhere else to go anyway. So the ratio becomes a lot more desirable for a location opportunity. So we looked at selling, I think, 8 additional locations that were undeveloped. And then we also had 3 franchise locations that were open. There were also a possibility for them to buy. So in all, they bought 5 open centers that were very successful with a high level staff. And then they had 3 potential franchisees that were very successful that they could particularly purchase. And then they had 8 additional licenses or more that they could have purchased in order to grow the region. So,
wow. So that's a serious operation that you had going with that. So let's talk about how, because you started out working for a franchisee, right? That owned an Orangetheory. So tell us that story, how that transpired. How do you go from, helping get Orangetheories open, working for someone else, to owning, an entire state or area?
Well, the funny thing is, I owned my own fitness brand called Vibe Fit Club with a partner, and she and I were able to open up two locations, one in Oldsmar and one in Tampa, Florida. And they did relatively well, but the thing, the problem was, is we didn't understand how to franchise it, and that was our model or our vision. And I think her and I basically, as brilliant as she was, we didn't have the same vision in terms of how we wanted this to look. I wanted it to be more like an Orangetheory, and she wanted it to be more like a wellness center. So at that point, I actually walked in, and my mentor from a big box gym, Terry Blachek, who was the VP of Lifestyle Family Fitness back in the day, and I used to work for him. He was actually one of the first developers of Orangetheory, and he owned all of Western Florida. Came and visited me one day and said, "Why don't you come and take a look at Orangetheory and see what you think? Maybe you can buy a franchise." And I said, "Come on, bro. I just built this beautiful facility out of my own money, blood, sweat, and tears. I'm not going to turn this into an Orangetheory." Lo and behold, I did walk in because I was very, very curious, never heard of it, thought, well, might as well check out the competition, was blown away by what they've already accomplished. Never in my life have I had such an ego to where I wanted to reinvent the wheel and take the credit. So I sold off my shares to my partner and took a very huge step back into assistant manager role on South Tampa studio, which was one of the biggest studios at the time in the pre-sale. And he ended up promoting me right away to manager. We were actually the first studio that hit 500 club under my direction. And that actually set the bar for what they call now the 500 club. So every franchisee that opened up from that point on had to try to hit 500 or more members at opening day, or within the first 30 days of opening. And that was like a big feat that we've created at South Tampa, which was awesome. And then I worked my way into regional multi-unit management. I also coached classes, which was just for fun. And from that point on, I had a friend that came up to me and said, "Hey, tell me about Orangetheory." I said, "Oh, it's a great workout. You should definitely definitely try it out." And he's like, "No, as a business." And I said, "Ooh." I said, "Well, yeah, let's talk about that." And so he ended up asking to do a franchise. And I said, "No, I'm good. I want to own an area one day. So if you want to come back with me with an area opportunity, then we'll talk, but I don't want to own one or two franchise locations." So then he called me up in about a week, said, "Okay, what area do you want? These are the three: Oklahoma, Albuquerque, and San Francisco." And I said, "Let's go with Oklahoma." And that's how we became partners in Oklahoma. And that's how it all started.
That is, what a story. That's crazy. And here's what's fascinating to me about the overall membership model, which, we'll wind up talking about the business that, more about the business that you're in now, which is kind of a similar model. But what people don't realize is that the membership model, you have 500 members before you even open your doors. You have a very profitable business from day one.
Oh, yeah. You're making money from the moment you open your doors, especially if you negotiate the leases properly. Free rent for at least 180 days.
Yeah. Free rent is so key. Wow. That's amazing. So what was that like? So you went from being in Tampa and hoping to, run a location and doing everything you were doing there, to then you moved to Oklahoma in order to grow out the territory. So tell us about what that experience was like.
Honestly, it wasn't that bad. I was a regional fitness director. I was a regional sales and ops. I've already had both sides of the glass pretty much mastered. I worked side by side with Mr. Blachek in lease negotiations and finding locations and working on the demographics. So I got to do, the higher level business stuff that franchisees do. He also helped me with learning and understanding the P&Ls and what that looks like for that particular model. And really the sales process is one of the biggest things that I was able to master and really implement in each center that we open, because that's really the foundation of everything is the sales process. A lot of franchisees in Orangetheory forget that process, or they don't know the process. So a little caveat to all that is I was hired by 5 different franchisees before we opened our first location, because I had, an extended amount of time where I was pretty much, unemployed until we got the first location opened. When I say unemployed, I mean we weren't working. And they hired me to come out and consult for them and to help turn their centers around or their studios around. So I was in Las Vegas, helped them start off their center or their studio and help them grow their member base from 250 to 420 within about a 60-day period. just by implementing a sales process. Went out to Utah, helped them grow their 2 centers from 400 to close to 700 in about a 90-day period, just by implementing a sales process. And then we were in Sarasota, we were in Georgia, and we helped the area developers that bought that whole entire area. And we worked on their 8 owned centers that were right in the intercity of Georgia, helped them grow substantially. So it really is just about looking at the right metrics and teaching people how to operate their business, because a lot of business people look at so many different things and they forget about the main thing, which is the actual sales process, why the membership-based model for that particular business works. So that was easy. It was an easy transition. It was just plug and play.
Yeah. So tell us about, for someone that's not familiar with kind of the sales process, and maybe looking into getting into a franchise or in the process of opening up their franchise, and they're nervous and they're scared because they don't know what to expect, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and they have their life savings on the line. What is your advice, and what are your keys on for how they can be successful from both a strategic perspective and from a mindset perspective?
Well, I think it's going to depend on the franchise model itself. I am only really familiar with the membership-based model because that's what I learned back when I was in big box gyms. I sold memberships, I managed gyms. So that was really a membership-based model that I was trained in and understood very clearly. But for a membership-based model, to be quite frank, it's follow headquarters sales process. A lot of the times people come in and they think they know how to do something better. And like I was telling you before, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. If something is working and people are successful at it, why fix what's not broken? And a lot of franchisees do come in and they want to be an entrepreneur. And that's great and all. We're all entrepreneurs in the spirit, but you also have to fall in line and do what's going to work. And sometimes, just think about it. These people who started this business have tried everything and they figured out what works. And that's why they implemented that. So trust the process is really my most biggest advice. You trust the process and you follow along and you talk to all of the people that are in the same level as you. You can learn and take best practices from those people because they're already doing it at a successful pace.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's great advice. What do you feel like as you went to Oklahoma and were getting those? How long did it take you to get 5 locations open, by the way?
Well, the first location, it took us 18 months just to get 1 lease. It was definitely, that was a challenge because nobody knew us. They didn't understand what Orangetheory was. Some people were kind of like, yeah, I think I know about this place. But I don't know, I'm going to go with a donut shop instead. And, I was like, oh my God, you guys in Oklahoma are definitely crazy. But they're not. They don't know what they don't know. And it was funny because as soon as we started, once the first location opened and the marketing started going out and they started understanding and doing their research, the centers were beating down our doors just to come into their plazas and put a location up. We actually had one that we really wanted to get in, which was a blessing because it would have been a terrible location now looking back. But we really wanted to get in, and they denied us. And then when they realized who we were, after we already signed our first lease, they sent us a handwritten note and begged us to come back. And they are apologizing for not understanding who we were at the beginning. But we were like, no, we're good. We like our center that we're in now.
Wow.
Sorry.
I think this is a really key point to kind of dive into, which is how sometimes when making decisions in business specifically, like we're fighting so hard. A lot of people that open a business, they're drivers, they're achievers. We're fighting so hard for something that we want and it doesn't work out. So talk about how that you wanted a location and it didn't work out and it wound up being a blessing in disguise. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
I wish I could. To be honest, we didn't really know the city of Edmond very well. So the way the traffic, how it flowed from each different location, geographically, we just thought, oh, this is a really pretty plaza. it's in a really, heavily dense neighborhood. But what would have happened if we would have put it there as our first location? It would have boxed out a lot of opportunity for other cities like Nichols Hills and Northwest Oklahoma City, and even a little bit more, north, to be able to come and become members, because the drive time would have doubled for them as opposed to being 10 minutes. And we didn't know that. And it just happened to be that they said no. And we were like, okay. And then we found a very, very inexpensive plaza in right in the nucleus of where all of those cities kind of intertwine. And we paid $16 a square foot as opposed to 40. And it was our highest utilized, most profitable studio, I think, in the entire company at the time because of it, because we were able to charge a premium price. Our rent was super cheap, and we had 950 members.
Wow. That's so powerful. So I think the key lesson for people here is that, look, in business, sometimes just trust the process. I tell some of the people that I work with, which is, sometimes you just got to kind of take the leap of faith and just trust that things are happening for a reason. And I know that's like a very woo-woo kind of philosophy to take, but it's true. And I've seen it happen for my wife and I with some decisions that we did or didn't make, where something didn't work out and we wanted it so badly. And we felt at the time so upset that it didn't work out. And then, like, hindsight being 2020, we're like, oh, okay, we get it, why that didn't work out.
Yeah, sometimes I'm persistent, but there's a very fine line between being persistent and then being forceful. And if it's got to be forced, then I feel like that's when I step back. But if I know that I'm being persistent, then I'm like, okay, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But at least I worked my butt off trying to get it. But if it doesn't happen at this point, I'm not forcing it.
Yeah.
And it's always worked out really well. I mean, our locations, that helped us establish such a pattern of how we built in Oklahoma, that now our Oklahoma market comes to me for consulting, because they're opening up the KidStrongs and we're following the same build pattern, because the way it worked out for us, it will be the same thing. So we're putting that KidStrong in Oklahoma directly next to the Orangetheory in Edmond as the first location. And it happens to be the landlord adored me. So he trusted that whoever I gave him was going to do a great job. It happened to be that there was 3,500 square feet completely carved out with vanilla shell. That's complete, right next to Orangetheory. He already soundproofed it. So it actually worked out really well. And they're going to get an incredible deal, and they're going to be able to play off of the Orangetheory moms in Edmond, and it's going to be an incredible location. And that actually set the precedence, I think, for KidStrong to pave themselves in a successful pattern in Oklahoma.
Wow, that's amazing. So I think this is a perfect transition, which is to talk about KidStrong, and then so you wind up selling your entire territory in Orangetheory, which we talked about earlier. How did you learn about KidStrong? What is KidStrong? And then so after you learned about KidStrong, how the heck did you decide to then jump into this?
Well, I learned from it. One of my members, Addie Scott, she actually, and I'm proud because she's the one that introduced me to it. She had moved from Edmond to Frisco. And when she moved there, she has two beautiful young kids, and they were in a program called KidStrong. And she called me up and said, hey, I think I have a franchise that you and I can do together. It's called KidStrong. And I said, Addie, there's no way I can do another franchise right now. I'm working morning, noon, and night, making sure that these centers are getting developed properly and managing my team and hiring everybody and getting everybody situated. I don't know if I have the time to really focus on another franchise. And so she's like, it's like Orangetheory for kids. That's all she told me. I never looked into it. And then when I actually left and sold KidStrong, I had about 2 months. I went on a vacation, and I went on a month-long trip to London and all different places. And we came back, and I sat down and I said, man, I need to think about my next move. And I I submitted for KidStrong. I started researching it because I remember her saying this. So I looked at it and I submitted. I got a call, set it up. My partner from Orangetheory and I sat on a call with Laura. We sat down, talked about, what KidStrong was, which I'll explain in a second. It sounded pretty interesting. Got on a call with the CEO, Matt, and he was like, come down to Dallas and let me show you what it is. So we did a discovery. The very next week, I was like, I hopped the plane, went to Dallas. But in the interim, I was doing a training at our Austin Orangetheories. And the VP that was there, she was an old friend of mine, and she was sitting down at the table with the KidStrong cup. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm going to KidStrong in 3 days. So I had texted her and said, hey, what's your involvement with KidStrong? And she's, oh, please don't say anything because I just bought Austin and Houston. And I'm like, that is so crazy because her and I had the same path through Orangetheory, through Tampa and Austin. So it was kind of weird that her and I came full circle in the same brand. So I went down, I did the discovery. He looked at me, said, what do you think? I said, where do I sign? I want to sign up. I want to buy the territories today. Like, what do we need to do? How do we need to make this happen? The moment you walk into the facility, as you saw, Tariq, you walk in and there is no doubt in your mind that the program isn't something that any parent that cares about their child they should have them in this program. And you feel that when you walk in. You feel that energy when you walk in. And I felt that energy with Orangetheory. I felt like every adult should be a member of Orangetheory. The first day I ever took a class, the first day I ever walked into KidStrong, I felt that same like goosebump, passion, enriched, emotion that I couldn't shake it. I was like, I don't care. Just give me the paperwork. I'm signing today. Take my money.
That's it's amazing. And yeah, I totally agree. It's funny because I say that I'm more excited for Sunday mornings than my son is.
That's what we need. We need the parents more excited, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fired up, ready to go. It's funny because my wife and I are getting ready to go up to the beach this weekend. We're going up to Jacksonville because we still have one of our franchises up there, and I'm going to go check in and I'm like, all right, well, we got to plan our trip. We got to be back by Sunday morning so that he doesn't miss class. So I literally, have planned out our weekend trip around making sure that we're back by Sunday morning to get to class.
That's awesome. And are you driving? You're not driving to Jacksonville. Oh yeah, it's not too far.
Yeah, it's only a couple hours.
I forgot we're in Orlando. I was just in Austin. Sometimes I lose track of what city I'm in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. What franchise is it?
It's called Robex. It's a juice and smoothie bar.
Oh yeah, I know. I've heard of it. They have one in Tampa, don't they? Channelside? Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's right across from Crunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, what's funny is the guy from corporate, the regional director that's supposed to go out and help open stores. I guess it's not funny, but he had like an emergency dental procedure that had to happen. So when that store was going to open for the grand opening, corporate called me and asked me to go out and help with the grand opening. So that's the only reason why I've actually been to that store. Yeah.
And the channel side?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
And yeah, it's an interesting area.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, channel side's up and coming. It's definitely growing for sure. But that's cool. Jacksonville, they're going to start a KidStrong there soon.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's talk about you. Like, I think it's crazy how decisive you were, right? Like, I think this is a powerful point. It's funny because I was just writing an email to my list that's going to go out next week about trusting your gut and trusting your instinct in business. And, it sounds like that's been the story of your life, really, which is trusting your gut and instinct and making fast decisions. And sometimes people let their fear overcome their gut and their instinct and the decision they made. So like, how were you able to just go in and be like, all right, I want to sign the paperwork. I want to sign up. Like, let's rock and roll.
Well, I think the first initial thing is the way I feel when I walk in. When I left my studio and I went into Orangetheory and I took a class and I watched the members and I saw the coaches and I saw how everybody was interacting and the way the brand was put together and how the members loved it and how they wanted to tell their friends. That was what I wanted to create with mine on a larger scale, and I couldn't do it. I was missing something, some sweet sauce, some secret sauce that I just didn't have at that time. And I don't think it was necessarily me. I just didn't know what it was. But I know what I'm capable of doing. So you give me, I'm good at following. Like you tell me, this is how this is what you need to do to be successful because it's already proven. I can take that actual process and I can master it, and then I can perfect it and make it even better and more powerful. And so when I saw this, I said, dang, I was like, this looks like this is exactly what I needed. I felt it. I loved it. Everything about it. Immediately. I mean, that day I walked back and I changed. I just did a 180. And it's just that feeling. The second thing I believe is that my belief of what I'm capable of doing. I know what I can bring to the table and what I'm capable of doing, and what I call superpowers are. And there are things that I know I can't do, and business models that I probably won't be able to master, nor do I care to master. But things like this, where I feel like it's very simple for me because I've done it for so long and at a high level, that I know what I'm able to bring to the table and do. So with KidStrong, it's a very similar model. There's no competition. There's a need for it. So that's all going for me. The parents are absolutely loving it. They were actually, like you were saying, they were more excited than the kids. That's what I was seeing. The parents with their video cameras and their KidStrong shirts. And, not like one dad was so upset that he had to leave because his son was throwing a temper tantrum. I don't even think the kid was the one that wanted to leave. The parent was like, no, I want to stay. And I was like, that is awesome. Like, he doesn't even want to leave, but his child does. And he kept trying to force his kid to stay, which was hilarious. I was like, I love this guy. But stuff like that. And then just knowing, like, if that's the model and that model, that model can work, then as long as you're capable, you have the skill sets to be able to make that model be successful and then picking the territories, then there's no reason why not to do it. It'd be silly. Passion is definitely going to be a part. I wouldn't do this for a car dealership.
Yeah, that's it.
I like cars though, but I only do it for things that I'm really I know is going to impact. I think the world in a positive way. So getting people healthy is going to impact the world in a positive way. Getting kids to feel more confident, so that those people that I was trying to get healthy in the past will even be at a better place in life than when they go to their adult fitness world than they are these days. Because let's just be real, we didn't have this back in our days. So teaching them now is important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think those are, it's such a key point. And, it's interesting because I think that people wind up getting into businesses sometimes that they're passionate about, but they don't have the skill set for it, or it's not the right model. It's not the right vehicle, right? So it sounds like, all the points of intersection combined. I say that, like, finding the right franchise is about, profit, skill set, the need in the marketplace, and then your passion or connection to the business. Yep. But like, it's possible for someone to be passionate about a business, but the business has a terrible profit potential, right? Or it's oversaturated in the marketplace and there's not a lot of demand. And then they don't do well and their perspective gets tainted.
Yeah. I think the other piece is when I looked at KidStrong, what made Orangetheory so successful and almost relatively untouchable, which really they still are even after the shutdown, was the fact that they were so far beyond in technology. They were so far beyond in brand awareness. They were so far beyond in every aspect that the community that it built, which is huge. That was the number one, selling point to me, was it's a very big community, and not just within your nucleus, but throughout the entire Orangetheory world, from here all the way across the world, to be quite honest. When I saw KidStrong, I saw, man, they are so far beyond. They're going to become untouchable because, and people say that to me, aren't you afraid of competition? There's going to be competition. People said that to me with Orangetheory. Guess what? It never happened because it was so far beyond everything that it will take years before anybody catches up. And by that point, Matt is so brilliant that he will have that all the way to a whole different level before by the time that person tries to catch up to where we are right now. And so it will become untouchable. And the things that you see now will be 100 times better in the next 5 years. Like, you'll see it grow so quickly to a whole different level. It will blow your mind. Things that are coming up that I can't talk about, it makes me so excited just to see what we have on the docket coming out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so what's your strategy from here? You own all of Orlando, all of Tampa, which is a massive market
Yep.
to own. How many locations are you going to be opening up between those two markets?
I would say a minimum of 20.
Minimum of 20.
Minimum of 20. Yep.
So for someone out there who, hasn't opened a franchise or is listening to this, like how do you even approach that in game plan? Like what sort of strategy and mindset do you set in place in order to accomplish a feat of opening up 20 locations? And how long would that take?
It just depends. The first step is to get the first one off the ground and the first one's going to be the hardest when you get off the ground in a new market, in a new brand that you're trying to understand all the different pieces and parts and how the market's going to accept it and, all those different things. And once that one gets off the ground and you see what you did really well and then what you can really improve on, you play to the strengths and then you kind of close the gaps on the improvements. And then from there, once we settle on, okay, here's what we're going to take from this location that we started. We're going to do all of these things that we put in place. We're going to go ahead and revise these things that we don't like. And then we're going to take that and we're going to push it right into location number 2. Once we get location number 1 open, to be quite honest, it becomes very automated. So now I can do, 2 to 3 locations at once. So right now we have a lease that we're about to hopefully get on Friday, this Friday for a Tampa location, and we'll start working that. And then once we get that, we have 2 LOIs out for 2 more Tampa Bay locations. So hopefully we can lock in 2 new locations. So we'll stagger them a little bit. We have an LOI in Orlando. So right now we can potentially have, I would say safely, 3 locations running at once. So we just do so one of the cool things I was working on today is I'm hiring a pre-sale director. And that person will be the one that is in charge of all the pre-sales that we do for each location, which alleviates that job off of me. So I don't have to manage that. So she'll take on a staff. Those set staff will then work pre-sale for studio center number 1, center number 2, and center number 3. And then while she does that, I'm able to work on hiring the right center director for each location and not have to rush and hiring a center director out of desperation. So it gives me plenty of time to focus on, what my most important investment is my team. That's my most important investment. Nothing will be as good as it is without the team I have in place.
That's key. So let's talk about that. I think that's a great point, and that plan sounds so exciting. Let's talk about hiring and finding the right people. I know that you mentioned on one of your Facebook posts that finding a unicorn of a center director, and the one that you have now at the location that I take my son to. What have you found are the keys to hiring good managers? Because I think it's every franchise owner's dream to be able to find a good manager and to be able to create a business where they don't have to be a slave to the business.
Honestly, it's what you attract. I really believe it's, you attract the people are most like you. So I've been very lucky that a lot of people that I brought into my team, they're very energetic. They're very positive. They're very exciting. They're very passionate. And, I think the person hiring has to exude those things or exude the things that you want to find in your team member. And what tends to happen is that you sometimes have people that don't have those attributes. And those are the people you find hiring people. And you're only going to hire the same people of those attributes that they have or lack thereof. So you have to make sure that whoever's doing the hiring is exactly who you would want to do that position yourself. And that's very important. And so when we found Jen, I did the interview. Dawn did it first. He sent it over to me. She'll tell you I was the wild card because she thought she was in with Dawn. And then she saw me and she went on my Facebook page, saw that I had shaved my head at one point and was like, oh boy, this girl's crazy. I don't know if I'll get this job. And honestly, the interview was pretty systematic. But I look for really one thing, and it's their energy. If their energy gets me excited, then they move on. If their energy does not, they do not move on. And it's as simple as that. I don't focus on, any of the things that they've done. I don't focus on, and I mean, unless they're like criminals and, those things, but I don't care about their past, right? I don't live in the past. If I got somebody in front of me that just gets me fired up in a good, positive way, I can train them to be a pretty darn good center director. You can't train somebody on personality. Personality has got to be something that they have. So when I did all my hiring, I did, interview on the phone. I did a audition tape. So they had to send me an audition tape for my coaches. And if I liked them on the audition tape, then they made it through the next phase, which was a one-on-one face-to-face interview with me. From there, we did meetups. So we got to meet up and do fun things. So I got to watch them interact in a more casual setting, in a more social setting. Because for me, if somebody is not social, then I wouldn't want them to be a part of, KidStrong, because it's got to be social, right? So I had 3 coaches that came out to these meetups that were not really good at socializing. So I didn't invite them to the actual certification. So simple stuff like that really helps eliminate things that, people don't really pay attention to.
Yeah. Wow.
For my brand. Yeah.
Yeah. And how, right now, I think I saw an article or something pop up that unemployment benefits or a certain amount are running out this weekend. So I think we're finally going to get people actually back to work in the workforce, because a lot of people have just, the reality is people have just been sitting on the sidelines. There's been a massive labor shortage. So how are you able to, because your team seems phenomenal from everything that I've seen, the multiple coaches at the location, how are you not only able to find people, but I guess we talked about you already found the right people. How are you able to get even applicants when we're in this massive labor shortage?
Believe it or not, when it comes to kids, more people want to be a part of developing kids as a passion, as rather than just a job. So they're not looking at this as though this is my job. They're looking at this as I get to do something that fulfills me in a way that money cannot do. And that's a really good thing for KidStrong, because then we hire those people. Those people want to be a part of something that, they feel is going to fulfill them and reward them in ways that no other job, no other, not even amount of money can actually do. Now, one of my employees that you see today asked me how much money they would make during their interviews. I saw them 6 times spoke to them or saw them 6 times in between. And not one time did they ever ask me how much they would make. Not one time.
Wow.
And the ones that didn't really make it through, but it wasn't because they asked that question. It just became a characteristic of they're more concerned about the money, and they're also not the right fit because they weren't really good at socializing. So it actually was a weird combination, but it worked out really well. So you just find, passion, it's somebody's passionate. And if they're not passionate, move on. I don't want to hire in desperation. My team, I will say in Oklahoma, I have 5 studio managers. I had no turnover. I had 5 head coaches, 0 turnover. They're still working in their positions to this day. You find the right people and they stay with you.
Wow.
I'm not even there. But they want to come work for us at KidStrong now.
That's amazing. Well, obviously you're doing something right. Well, Nabilah, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor. I love your enthusiasm and your passion and your excitement. Obviously, you're going to crush it with what you're doing now, and congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
that you've had. Yeah, absolutely. What would be your parting words of advice to someone who's looking at somehow transitioning from their job and either getting into franchising or just kind of making the leap to entrepreneurship? What one piece of advice would you leave them with?
I have the first one is do the work for the career you want, not the job you have, right? So you can't just expect things to happen if you're not willing to put the work in for what you really, truly want. And the second thing is, and I've always believed this, if you want to wake up every single day feeling like you're not working, find something that you truly love to do. Don't just get into a franchise business for passive income if you're not passionate about that particular, brand or, genre of business. If you really want to make a lot of money in something that you love doing, you've got to really truly love doing it. And I was presented with a lot of different franchises. Some were in adult fitness, Rumble, F45, a couple other weird ones I never heard of. And while I was very passionate about adult fitness, I'm no longer passionate about adult fitness anymore. So although all of those would have been great business models to get involved in, maybe not so much F45, but definitely Rumble. I decided that I wanted to go a different route because I don't think that I would have been as successful, and because I wouldn't truly believed or felt connected to that brand as much as I did with Orangetheory, because I was still passionate about fitness at the time. With KidStrong, it's completely different. I'm like ingrained in it now. I might take my son to Orlando just so he can take the Saturday classes. I can't wait till the Tampa one opens up. We got to stop schlepping all the way to Orlando. But yeah, so I think that's what it is. I think you got to do the work for the career you want, not the job you have, and you've got to pick the right model of or brand that you really want to just give everything you've got to.
I think that's great advice. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. And Nabilah, thanks again for joining, and we will see you guys on the next one.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tariq. Take care.